good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back to another PorscheCooled Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things Porsche. My name is Michael Barth. You guys know me already, I'm sure. We're going to be joined shortly by Steve, the other half of this podcast. Steve's coming all the way from Australia again. We're doing this via Zoom. Zoom has been pretty good to me lately, except for the last owner stories, which will come up next Tuesday. It was a bit rough, but I managed to fix it up, and I think the sound is okay. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm not going to talk for too long in the beginning of this today. I got Steve waiting. I'm a little bit late getting myself organized this morning, so I'm going to start up the Zoom, going to get Steve on the line, and we're going to talk about Porsche. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Where are we? We're PorscheCooled. Here's Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, mate. There you go.
Good. How are you?
Okay. Good. COVID update?
COVID
No
update,
COVID
all
calls?
clear. No mystery. I've had no unknown mystery callers to my apartment wanting to test me with long sticks. And
no
everything's
more long sticks, that's
COVID-free.
good.
Except it was a bit distressing. I went into the office a couple of days ago. I was just telling you I went in. I didn't tell you the other part of it. And some of the people in higher positions are not wearing masks. I find that very distressing that they weren't wearing masks. It kind of bothered me. But that's another story. Where am I, Steve? Okay. So I did a YouTube video. Did you watch it?
I did. You driving around in a Merc? It's newer than I thought that it would be.
I'm a bit of an idiot, I know. But I just wanted to do a video because I hadn't done one in a long time. And someone said to me, I really used to enjoy your driving videos. So I thought I'll do a driving video in a 911. But it was very funny when I went downstairs because that guy that owns that white 911 Turbo, because of COVID, he hasn't been here for a long time. I thought he'd moved out. And then I just walked downstairs and there it is. You know what I mean? Tempting me. It's it's pretty nice, the Turbo, you know. It's so fat. It's a lot fatter than I thought it was. I was standing next to it. Even Tasha said it's really beautiful.
Very squat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go and make friends with him. Get him to donate it for a bit of a test drive.
I tried to talk to him one day, I was going to talk to him, but he sort of turned away. So I thought, you know what I mean? But
Thought you were some freak
I think
show.
I know. I think I know who he is actually, because I think he was in the gym when I went up there the other day, and I realized I hadn't seen him in a while, and I think it's him. But I'm glad it was there for my video anyway. So I did a silly driving video. But some people say they want to see Bahrain, and some people want to see me driving. So I thought I'd just do it. But that was it.
Cool.
So I had a bit of a busy weekend. I did that video on Saturday afternoon. I came back, and then I had an hour's gap, and then I recorded the PorscheCooled owner stories, the one that just came up yesterday with Ajmal.
Yep.
And then then I edited the video. Then on Sunday I did another podcast with Justin from Australia. So it was all weekend I was Tasha didn't really see me because I was just basically head down editing or recording or doing stuff. So or sleeping.
Busy, mate.
Or sleeping.
It's a lot of work. Tons of work.
Yeah. It is a bit of work, but it's fun. Sorry about my voice. I'm a bit croaky this morning. I think I've come down with something, but hopefully it'll go away. But I don't know about you, Steve. There is something that I like, and I don't feel like I'm in the creative field, but I guess in some ways we are. But I've never been in the creative field, and I kind of cross over a bit with, the exhibition design or whatever. But I don't know about you, but there's something about beginning something and ending something and creating something in the middle. You know what I mean? And I think this is what I like about YouTube and the podcast is that we have the idea, you record it, it's a good conversation, then you edit it and you hear it again. And it's hard editing because you've got to listen to yourself, you've got to go through the whole podcast and record it. But then you put it up and you publish it. And it's something really satisfying about making something and completing it and it's done. And I'm sure you felt that way in your advertising career, right?
Well, it's exactly that. The thing that you kind of notice, I started in advertising when I was 19, so I've not known anything else. But, when you look at other people that kind of work in finance or whatever else, you can tell that one of the things about it's creating, you have a finished product, so you've actually got something to kind of show for it. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a mechanic or a carpenter or something where you've got something truly kind of physical. That would be super satisfying. But
yeah,
it is cool.
No, it's a really good feeling. It's a really good feeling. It's funny, because this I guess is like radio, what we do. I mean, it is online radio, right? I know Spike First and Matt Farah, they always say it's radio. The funny thing is, though, when I was in high school and we had to do work experience, I actually did work experience 2 times at a radio station on the Central Coast. At the radio station on the Central Coast.
Why?
Because that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, okay. Wow.
That's actually what I wanted to do. I never did it
Full
because
circle,
I was listened to opinion and what people were saying to me, and I never sort of went forward with it, But I actually did do work experience at a radio station. I was telling Tasha that, she thought it was very funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think radio is like proper radio, not just podcasts. I believe that it's had a rebirth during COVID, obviously, because people have more sort of time.
I think podcasts
which is interesting from an
have,
advertising perspective, because radio was like TV, like a dying kind of medium.
Exactly.
But I think it's had a rebirth. So,
but don't you think, Steve, that podcasts have actually helped radio? I think podcasts have helped radio because it's given that thing where it's almost cool again. Like you said, it was like a bit on the out, and podcasts, and that's what I mean. Podcasts are like radio, so podcasts have actually helped radio. You know what I mean? It's actually helped radio. I think in that radio has to become better because now they've got more competition as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Did you watch the latest smoking tire? It's I think they go the other way. I think the YouTube video goes up before the podcast. So Matt Farrow got Christian J. Hand in, the guy that I spoke about prior. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't watched it yet. No, not yet.
Oh, okay. You won't understand what I was about to say, because Christian J. Hand is a ex-muso producer, and he talks about radio and how it's a dying art from his perspective as a musician. So you reminded me of that. Just watch that and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. No, I'm caught up on all the spikes because I was behind because I didn't actually listen to any in London because I wanted to save them. So when I came back here, I had enough to do when I go for a run and go to the gym because that's when I listen to them all. So I've finished Spike now and I'm catching up on Mr. Farrah's ones. So that's where I'm at the moment. What else? So it's that feedback, it's that instant gratification of completing something. And like I said, when I'm talking about feedback as well, I just want to say to the listeners out there that it would be really, really good if you can go to Apple. I know Apple's annoying. I just watched Apple's streaming thing last night. I don't know why I sat through the whole thing when I could have read it in 5 minutes.
Oh, did you?
But I sat through. I sat through it on Apple Plus. I watched it.
Through it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a big Apple fan for a long time, as you know, and so have you, Steve. But I'm finding their launches becoming too over-rehearsed. They feel over-rehearsed now. I know when Steve Jobs,
because that one was filmed, so like that, they obviously, as opposed to that being live, like God knows how many times they kind of did it. And
did you watch it?
Then they've kind of done special effects. I looked through some of it. I skimmed it because I just wanted to kind of see what features the new phone would have.
Yeah, I watched it, but like I said, I should have just gone to Macrumors and just read about it. Did you see the furniture they had in the set? They had our bookcase and stuff there. They had all the most expensive. Well, they had expensive furniture. That's all I say.
Yes.
So my week, I like to update on my week. So no COVID stories this week because I know people are probably sick of them. But I've been a little bit immersed in 912, and that's probably because of speaking to Ajmal, who's the latest Porsche owner on PorscheCooled Stories, but I've been a little bit immersed in it. I'm still obsessed with that sand beige one in Melbourne, Steve. I haven't recontacted the guy, the one that's 92,000, but it's 92,500 Australian dollars, but it's 89,000 on Gumtree.
Yep.
If it was 85, I keep trying to work out the cost, of shipping and customs and duty and stuff. And even though that is 80, 90,000, it's still, when it all balances out, it's quite a good buy because it's got a new fuel tank. It's quite rust-free because I've got a lot of other images that he sent me through car sales. I actually asked for it back in June. So it's actually quite a good one.
Is it an Australian delivered car originally?
No. US, New York delivered car.
Yeah.
Left-hand drive. I don't think there was many 912s that were delivered to Australia. I think it was pretty rare.
Oh, okay.
I think it was mainly left-hand drives.
Right.
But there was an orange one that's been on classic cars in the UK for quite some time. I contacted that guy as well. Hopefully he doesn't listen to the podcast, but I was actually interested in it, but he sent me some images last night and it's a lot of rust. He says it's surface rust, but I look at it and there's rust underneath the door. It's got like holes underneath where the door closes, the undercarriage bit, that rough bit. There's all holes there. There's all rust around the windscreen. I don't know how bad it is or what it needs to fix up. But I did contact your friend who's helped you with your inserts in that, Gary at Classic FX.
Oh, Gary.
Gary,
he's
yep.
awesome.
So hello, Gary, if you're listening. I know he does listen to the podcast. And I contacted him on Saturday night, and he was really, really helpful, actually. He answered straight away because I was trying to get an idea of how much it would cost to fix up the interior because the interior is rough. At that time, I thought the body was okay, Steve. And mechanically, this guy's done a lot of work on the car, the guy that owns the orange one in the UK. It's 39,000 pounds, 38,990 now, I think. I think he's taken 1,000 pounds off. And he's done a lot of mechanical work. Most of it was done by Porsche specialists, which he told me, which I asked him. He didn't say which one. But anyway, it looked like it was just the interior that needed work, but it looks now like the body needs a lot of work. And I just got a rough idea from Gary how much it would cost, ballpark. I won't say it on the podcast. I'll tell you separately. But it was quite reasonable. Gary's really helpful. And then Gary told me about 912 Revival, which is the 912 specialist in the UK. And he was going to contact the owner of 912 Revival to see if he knew who owned the car or knew anything about the car's history. He hasn't got back to me about that. I'm not going to hassle him, but he did actually said he was going to check for me. But this is all spurned on basically because after I spoke to Ajmal and his 912, which I'm going to get into, it got me excited and thought I take too long to make a decision. Speaking to Ajmal, flat cap driver, he's just quick. You know what I mean? I like how he did it quick. And it kind of scares me at the same time, Steve, like for you and I, like he didn't, no PPIs and stuff like that, and just go out and buy the 996 and then the 912. But I'll talk about that in a second.
Cool.
So, I've been a bit sort of surrounded by 912s and looking about 912s. And then this morning, one came up on Beverly Hills Car Club, which is a white one. White's not the best color in the 912. As you know, I think it's better in a color, like bright color or even the beige. But a white one came up. And the thing about Beverly Hills Car Club is they come up at the right price. Like this one is sub 40K US. Which means if it's landed with duty and everything, luxury car tax, which is minimal on that price, it's about 61,000. And then, you put another side, they say put aside 4,000 for compliance. I don't think you need 4,000, but if you need to get seatbelts changed over and things added. So that's about 65. And then if you say, do some work at Autohouse, maybe that's another 10 just to keep it just for, so it's good enough to drive. So maybe that's 75. So 75 is still, it's still getting up there once you start getting things done. But I don't know, the sand beige one is still the better color. But anyway, Ajmal at Flat Cap Driver, his being so spontaneous sort of inspired me to like look more seriously and spend some money.
Yeah, right.
So, and then there was a book. I just want to mention this book for anyone that's interested in 912s. There's a book called The Complete Porsche 912 Guide. And I think people who go onto 912 registry, the forum, or the 912 experts, and it's a great forum, that forum, if you're looking at a 912. They were talking about it, and it was out of publication, and it was done by a guy called Dwayne Spencer and Gordon Maltby. Gordon Maltby, I've heard of his name before, I'm not sure where. But I tried to buy it, and then I couldn't buy it, and then it said it was still in your cart, so I emailed them, but apparently they're only shipping to the US, which is annoying, because it was out of publication, and he's literally made 200 copies, that's it. Reprinted 200 copies for people that wanted it. So it's a bit annoying, so I can't get that. What else?
Can you get it as an ebook?
No, I don't think so. It said on the forum that they were going to send it to the UK. They were going to organise shipping for Europe and UK, but he emailed me directly, Gordon, and said no, he's not doing international shipping. So it's a little bit annoying. But anyway, I reached out to Gary at Classic FX, and everyone knows Gary. Well, and some other people do know that Gary at Classic FX does all the interior, fixes up all the interiors on 911s and 912s and things like that. He's very good at it. But he said 912 Revival was really good for the mechanical side of it. And then I watched TGE on YouTube. I didn't realize he actually...
TGE use?
Yeah, and I didn't realize he was the one that's who TGE TV used. He used for his Irish green 912. He used 912 Revival. So they do everything.
I watched his video. Did he ever divulge how much money he had to kind of sink into that thing after he got it? Like, I know he sort of said that he knew that it was in pretty rough condition when he got it because there was holes in the floor and everything.
Well, he told me how much he paid for it on DM and Instagram. I actually asked him.
Yep.
And he paid £39,000 for that car.
Right.
Now, I didn't actually say that
That's
to Ajmal.
That's
but
not cheap though, is it?
no, it's not. And Ajmal paid 30 for his, and I think Ajmal got a really good buy. He said on further inspection, because he really didn't look at it that much, he went and looked at it and it was on the back of a truck, so he couldn't really look at it properly before he went on the bid on the auction. But he said his has got a bit of putty and a bit of rust, and it's with his mechanic now, getting sort of looked over. But I think what he paid for 30 grand, his car looks pretty good. You know what I mean? I know it's not matching color
Is it
or whatever.
matching numbers? It's not matching numbers.
No, it's not. Not. It's the same year engine that's supposed to be in it. It's the same year.
Yep.
The original color, I think, was actually, I think it was sand beige. I'm trying to remember in the podcast. I think he said it was sand beige, but now it's painted a like Oslo blue or blue color. And I think he's going to do it. I think he wants to do it like slate gray. I think he said in the podcast he wants to do it slate gray and tan interior, and put the roof rack on the top and stuff. Then I think he's going to drive it through Scotland, which was really inspired by, because that's the idea of getting this 912 in the UK, which would cost me with, I don't even know how I could register it, insurance. Nick reckons I can. But to keep it, store it, and then take it through, get it mechanically sounded, get it mechanically like reliable and a bit more power through 912 Revival, and then drive it through Europe next summer, because hopefully I won't be working then, so I can just do whatever I want to do.
Living the life of leisure. Okay.
I don't know, mate. That's a plan. I just think about these things.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, I think the PorscheCooled stories are good, Steve. I think I know you haven't listened to the latest one. You've been busy.
Yeah, sorry.
But I think it's good is in that it's just shows you how good the Porsche community is. You know what I mean? And how you find everyone who is, like-minded, but then our stories differ slightly, but there's such a common thread through all of them, and I think that's what's really nice about it.
Yeah, cool.
So, like I said, I will let you talk in a second, Steve. Sorry. PorscheCooled Stories. So that was number 3 of the PorscheCooled Stories, and that dropped yesterday on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, etc. It's a good one. So if you haven't listened to it already, take a listen, because it's a really good story. Basically, Ajmal bought the cheapest 996 in the UK a year ago. He's been making videos about it. And then he did a video, I think, a couple of weeks ago where he wanted to buy a 912, and then he went on some auction on a Friday night after a bottle of wine and bought this 912. Pretty much sight unseen. His 996 though, Steve, and it's no secret because he says it in the podcast, but I'll give it away. He paid £6,500 for it.
Holy shit. What's that? That's like 20...
No. It's like
Not even
11,000 Australian dollars.
Aussie. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know. And he's put in a few £1,000s, and he uses it daily. It works. It drives. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, I want people to listen to the podcast, but it's a really good story.
Yeah,
and then
I haven't listened yet.
And then now he's got a 912. He also owns an MG that he's owned for 22 years. 22 years, got an MGB, or I don't know if it's an MGB, but he's got an MG. And then I recorded another PorscheCooled Stories podcast with Justin. Justin owns a 996. He's from Sydney, Australia. That was another really interesting conversation. It was a longer conversation with Justin because we started talking about watches. And that's going to come live, be published next Tuesday for the next Tuesday's episode. So what's that, the 20th of October. So that's coming up.
Yeah, cool.
And I know there's a lot of other people who have reached out to do a episode to talk about their Porsche. Some people I've responded to, some I haven't. I will respond to you. It's just been a bit busy, and I'll organise a recording time for Zoom so we can get your story up as soon as possible. But there's some great stories out there, so I really appreciate everyone coming forward and being willing to do it, because I know it's a bit daunting for people that haven't been on something like this. It's a bit, it's not so easy.
Yeah, it is. But it's also daunting for you because trying to figure out all the technical stuff and actually kind of lead the conversation isn't easy as well. So it's cool. Tons of work there.
It's fun though. So where are we? Patreon. So this is a part where we give the shout out to the new members of Patreon. Patreon, as you know, is where we get people to support the podcast. You become a PorscheCooled member. Best to become a PorscheCooled exclusive member, $5 US a month. And then we give you, Steve and I give you 24 hours early access to all the episodes. You get a shout out in the next episode, and you'll get an invitation to upcoming live Q&As and things like that. The more members we get, we'll do more things. We have thought about merchandise. We haven't done it yet, but membership through Patreon will help us start planning that sort of merchandise and just get something right. I don't want to do something that's bad. I just want to do something that's right. So Steve and I are sort of putting our heads together, trying to think about what we can do for you guys, whether it be a free thing or just for members, and then maybe a paid merchandise sort of theme. Also, the membership covers the cost of equipment. There's quite a bit of equipment we need to buy at the moment, so that'll go towards that as well. So thank you for supporting. And this week, Steve, I was going to say to you, we don't have any new members. That's what I was going to say to you. I was going to be very depressed and say, no one wants to join us anymore. Everyone's sick of us. But an hour ago, we had a new person join from Melbourne. So Stan has just joined.
Cool. Go Stan.
And Stan joined, of course, PorscheCooled exclusive. And Stan has been listening to our podcast. He's been listening to it during the lockdown in Melbourne. Unfortunately, Melbourne and Australia had a big breakout, and they've went through a second wave, and they've been locked down for some time. I think they're out of lockdown now, aren't they?
There's talk about stuff happened in some rural areas, so their return from lockdown, possibly, I think the latest headline was that it might be slowed a little bit, their recovery.
Okay. So he said he's been really enjoying listening to the podcast during lockdown, and he took the plunge. He took the plunge, Steve, and he bought his very first 911. Guess what he bought? He bought a 2009 Carrera 4S in May of this year, so in the start of the first lockdown. So he bought a 2009, so that's a 997.1, right? Be 997.1.
Yes, yep.
So nice one, Stan. Good choice of cars. As you know, Nick, who did the PorscheCooled Stories, he owns a very similar car to you. I don't know what colour. You didn't tell me the colour, but we'll find out that in the future. So thanks for joining PorscheCooled. Steve, I'll leave it to you. What's been happening this week? Did you drive the GT3? Did you get an answer back about the shifter?
I did not. Joel has been busy. He is a photographer, so he apologised to me and said that he was on a massive shoot, shooting stills and film. So just to kind of give him some time, which I have.
So refresh everyone what you're wanting to get now.
I'm just trying to find out whether or not that if he can do the wooden kind of gear knob in like one color rather than the sort of banded finish that I think everybody's sort of a lot more familiar with. And I think it was smoked oak.
Smoked oak,
which is the darker sort of finish. I've seen I think I've seen in Singers that there's an ebony wood which looks really good, but
really?
I don't think that's something that he's offering.
I think I like the
and then also
better.
Ebony looks pretty good. I hate is it Wengi?
Oh yeah.
That sort of, I equate Wengi to IKEA furniture, so I know that was an option, but I just don't like it. So
yeah. Just to refresh everyone too, Joel is the guy that makes the shifters, the wood shifters for Carbone, which is in Poland. He's actually the person that makes it for them.
Yep. And he also had just mentioned that he can actually supply the shift rod, the bit underneath the kind of gear knob, in a matte black. He's got a couple of different finishes, but I was actually always wanting the matte black finish. So I'm kind of curious about that as well. Just wanted to see.
It's very cool. I'm still thinking about it. I told you Tasha doesn't like it, but I'm still thinking about it.
She'll change her mind. Santa will come and look after you.
Yeah. All I want for Christmas is to be back in Australia. That's what I want for Christmas. So I thought today, Steve, we'd just start off talking about tyres for the 911. And I guess I'd kind of forgotten about this. And I know when I bought my lobster claw wheels and I brought them back from the UK and I had to get tyres for them, I kind of went through this process, this dilemma, I guess you could call it, this process, and forgot about it. But I had a message from a very, very old YouTube video that I did that someone's asked me, am I still happy with my choice? And I guess the answer to that is yes. And I guess the dilemma is that this N-Spec thing, the N-Spec tyres, and you and I had this conversation when I bought the tyres for my 997, and I know you went in a slightly different direction, so I thought we'd just talk about it today. And most people know, and I'm going to sort of half paraphrase here, half read, but the N-Spec tyres are basically designed to meet, performance, durability standards that are set by Porsche. So Porsche, this is what I've read, Steve. Tell me if I'm wrong here. But Porsche, in collaboration with like Michelin, Pirelli, Bridgestone, Continental, etc.,
Yes.
they develop a tire that will perform correctly on the model that they are developing, that they are launching. And that means the tire, the N-Spec as they call it tire, is designed for your Porsche. Now, when obviously these testings that they do, obviously they have certain tests that Porsche do in development, road tests, racetrack evaluations, etc., to make sure that the tire meets noise, hydroplaning, handling, high-speed durability requirements. And then if they, after the completion of these tests, the tires will then be released for production and they'll be branded as N-Spec. I don't know what N stands for, but they'll be branded as N-Spec. Now, this is interesting when it comes to my situation, but the N specification brandings are 0, 1, N1, N2, N3, N4, N5, N6. And these markings on the tire
different
side...
generations of it.
Different generations of it, exactly. And my tires that I bought were N2, which we'll get onto in a second. And that means they're approved by Porsche. If you've got an N-Spec tire, they're approved by Porsche for the vehicle. N0 obviously is the first approved version of a tire design, and then the tire will be available. It might come out in 2005, and then it'll be N1 or N2. When I bought my tires in 2017, my Michelin Pilot Sport 2s, which are the tires that are meant to go on my car, my 997 Carrera, they were up to N2 specification. I'm not sure what they're up to now, if there's been any updates on them, but they're at N2.
Do they still make them?
They do still make them, yeah. And the thing is, they say that they do make them, but when I got my tires, it took a little bit to get them, and I got them through, spinning wheels or jacks or whatever it is in Waterloo. What is that? Is that Waterloo?
Yes.
Waterloo in Sydney.
Sorry, it was Waterloo, but they've moved to Marrickville now.
Yeah, they moved to Marrickville, right. So I got them Waterloo, and they had to order them in. I think they took a day to come in. But at the time when I got my tires, and you and I had this conversation, I remember, because at the time, the Michelin Pilot 4S, is it?
4S.
Pilot Sport 4S came out. That was when the Pilot Sport 4S pretty much just was released at that period.
Yep.
And I think you were saying to me, you should get those.
Yep.
And me being, I don't know, this OEM sort of obsessed kind of thing, I thought about it and I read reviews on the Pilot Sport 4S, and on Renlist and on the forums, people were having the same debate, and it was about 50-50. Yeah. But for me, I wanted the N-Spec tire. And when I bought them from Jacks or Spinning Wheels or whatever it was called in Sydney, they were great. But I remember the price was pretty much the price of the Pilot Sport 2s, the N-Spec tire, which was an N2, was almost the same price as the new Michelins.
Yep.
So obviously the price of N-Spec tires are still expensive, but yes, they still make them. Apparently they still make them. I don't know when they stop making them. They say you shouldn't mix N-Spec tires either, so you shouldn't have, if you've got to get 2 new tires, you shouldn't leave your Pilot Sport 2s, which are N1 or N2 on the front, and then get 4Ss on the back. They say you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't mix the tires. Do you agree with that?
Negative.
Huh?
I do not.
You do not? Tell me why?
No. Well, because I just don't think I don't think on an everyday sort of street drive that you're going to notice a difference. It's because so in normal conditions, your rears are going to wear twice as fast as your fronts. So you're going to wind up with a pair of mismatched sort of front to back tires anyway. So for sure you shouldn't mix brands, but if you've kind of got 3-year-old kind of tires on the front, and then you've got brand new rears, but they're the same, they're call it PS2s, which are on your car, but want a brand new set, you're not gonna mess the handling of your car up by doing that. And if they're different N ratings, then it's going to be fairly minimal. I don't know, the bits, I know exactly what you're talking about. When you kind of read different forums, the sort of debate about whether an N-Spec is what is really the difference. I don't think you actually ever get a straight answer from anybody. To be perfectly
So
honest.
you don't agree with the fact where they say if I've got PS2s on the front now, my rears are worn out, and then I go and get Pilot
Yep.
Sport 4Ss, you think that's okay?
Oh, you're talking about different model of tire. I'm
Yeah,
sort of
because
talking
it's
about the
not
same model across the board, or four.
yeah, but see, it's not N-Spec. This is what they're saying. You can't mix N-Spec tires. They're saying.
Yeah. So I'm sort of saying, like, if you're kind of going, you've got NOs on the front, but then you've got N2s on the back. I don't reckon that's like the biggest deal in the world. If you're talking about you've got PS2s front and back.
Yeah,
If
but
you're kind of going, you've got PS2s on the front, but then Pilot Sport 4Ss on the back.
yes.
Then that might be sort of arguably, possibly a no-no. But
Okay.
you'd still have to be kind of driving fairly hard. Like I remember.
So you
Which
agree
car
with
was it?
Porsche then? That's what Porsche say.
Oh, is it? I thought you were sort of no, because I thought you were sort of saying don't mix N-Spec.
Oh, I meant to say don't. If you've got N-Spec PS2s on the front, and then you've got Pilot Sport 4S on the back, which are not N-Spec. They're not N-Spec Pilot
Yeah,
Sport
different,
4Ss.
different. You slightly kind of mixing it though, because like, for example, like a PS2, you back in the day you could have bought that as a non-N-Spec, so that would fit Audis and Beamers and all that sort of stuff. It's just that they develop an N-Spec for a Porsche.
Right.
So, like essentially it's still the same tire, like it's still the same pattern and all that type of thing.
But I remember when I bought those tires, and you said, do you really want to get Pilot Sport 2s? They're such an old tire. They're such old technology. Regardless if they're N1, N2, N3, they're still old technology, and you'd be better off getting a 4S.
Yep.
So you still stand by that?
Yeah, I do because like this is sort of like an extreme example, but you think about like all that chatter about Carrera GTs, how like on the original kind of spec Michelin that they sort of said like the handling was super sketchy and stuff like that.
Right.
But whenever you kind of like look at YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff, when people drive them these days, but they're on the latest tires, they reckon that it's completely transformed. So I reckon, and look, neither of us are experts, so I guess we're just talking out loud as per usual. But I would just kind of go, if tire technology sort of moves so quickly because it's kind of constantly being developed in terms of tread pattern and compound and all of that sort of thing, like I would opt for the newer tire. So like what you're talking about in terms of N-Spec, I'm actually in that sort of position strangely because I've kind of got that second set of wheels, the Weiss Gold ones. I was sort of thinking about messing around and kind of putting a brand new set of tires on it, and I could actually swap my wheels
which I think is a great idea. But tell me, your GT3, as per the factory manual, what are the N-Spec tires that are supposed to be put on your GT3, your 997.1?
Well, originally, it only came with Michelin Cup ones. What were Cup ones? And P0 courses.
So can you still buy those tires?
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
Sorry, that's my phone.
Who's that woman in your room?
Yeah, Siri. She's hot. I believe.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
I need to put something in her mouth.
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure I understand either. Particularly when you're in silent mode.
Siri is annoying. Siri is so annoying. Yeah, go on. So they still have those tires are still available?
I don't think so. See, like I don't think that you can buy Cup ones. Not that I ever looked into it. I prefer Michelins to Pirellis. So like when I picked up the car, it actually had P0 courses on it. But so in both examples, that's what came from the factory. What you could specify the car from the factory back in 2008. But I have a feeling that you probably couldn't get either of those tires anymore. So when I did put new tires on it, I put Cup 2s on it, and they're N-rated, all that sort of stuff. So they've been brilliant. But just going back to that other kind of conversation,
so they're N-rated for what model of GT3? What were they tested on? Do you know?
No idea.
What model of Porsche? Because that means they're tested on a Porsche.
Yeah, it would have been a 99. I'm assuming it would be a 991.
991.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. So I put a call in like a couple of. I was helping a friend actually. So just two tangents on that was if I was to get a new set of tires, I am thinking Pilot Sport 4Ss, and up until very, very recently, I believe they weren't N-rated, but I kind of go, it really doesn't matter. Because I think the tire would be so good that I don't think the N rating would matter.
But for a GT, I know these are your second set of wheels. These are for the Weiss Gold ones, but you wouldn't get the cups again?
No, because you've heard me talk about it before. I think particularly because I don't track the car. I'm getting old and I just don't push it that hard. I would forgo some of the kind of performance, the dry handling performance that I probably I'm not even reaching the kind of limits of the car anyway, to feel more comfortable driving in the wet, because I do sort of get a little bit more nervous about driving through standing water, and because Sydney weather's kind of getting so sketchy as well. When it rains, it really rains hard here now, so I tend not to take the car out in the rain.
Right.
Which
So
I probably would do anyway.
I guess it's like a test then. So you've got the Weiss Gold wheels, which are perfect. They don't need any more refurbishment. They're perfect still, right?
No.
So you get those,
absolutely.
you get 4Ss, which don't cost as much as the Cup 2s anyway. They're probably a little bit cheaper at the moment because they've been around. 4Ss have been out for 3 years or so now. And then I guess you get to test it, like you said, you can test it in the rain, and then you know if you just want to put your other wheels on 4Ss as well. So it gives you a bit of an insight, doesn't it?
Yeah. The bits that I read too, like in the comparison between those two, is that a lot of people supposedly say that the performance of a 4S is pretty, actually kind of pretty amazing. So they're really, really good on the street. So I'd be quite happy to kind of give it a go. And again, I guess, you just think about like our kind of usage or my usage, because I'm not kind of absolutely kind of fanging around corners. Admittedly, I do actually think part of the sensation of like why my car feels, for example, so different to yours, like when you're kind of cornering, is because I think the tires are that much grippier. Like I reckon you just kind of go through a corner like considerably quicker speed, and it's probably a lot due to the tires.
So you could keep one set of tires for your track tires and one set of tires for your street tires. You could almost have
If
like
I
that
made it to the
setup.
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to do that Autohouse
just
Hamilton thing. We're going to do that. We're going to do a track thing somewhere.
Did you see that this week?
Yeah,
They
I
went
saw
to
that.
Lidenham.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, it looks good.
I know, it looks like fun. You know what I want to do here? And I said it to Tasha the other day. It's not super expensive. I'm going to go and do the go-karting at Bahrain Circuit. I'm going to go and have a go.
Go-karting be awesome too.
Yeah, so you can do, you've got to do 2 15-minute sessions. It's still open. I think it's not super cheap. It's about, I think it's 20 dinner or 30 dinner per session. So that's about 220 Australian dollars for 2 15-minute sessions. So it's not cheap, but I really want to do it. I just want to do it, and just like, if I enjoy it, I might do it regularly, just to get like track experience. So when you actually go on a track, which I hope to do one day, that you have a little bit more of a knowledge of the right lines and everything. Because they say it's the best thing to do to work out the lines, right? As what F1 drivers train in.
I'm going to sound like a complete tool, but whatever. I'll just say it in public. The last time I went go-karting was a mate's 40th. This was like he's now past 50, so quite a while ago. So I was going to say go-karting is most fun when you kind of grab like 10 friends and you're kind of racing each other, so you know everybody else that you're racing against.
Yeah.
I think back in that day I was driving my 993. So we did the whole thing, like your two kind of pre-races and then the sort of final race, and the person that wins a final race, wins the day kind of thing. And surprisingly, that was me.
Really?
Admittedly, I probably am. Yeah. Admittedly, I'm probably lighter than the other guys. But I actually reckon that it was from
Video games.
at that point in time. No, 911s. 911s, mate. Despite my heritage. Because it teaches you to brake in a straight line before the corner, and then to kind of, and like particularly old 911s too, like the driving technique of kind of braking in a straight line into the corner and then accelerating out of the apex. I'm no race car driver, but I actually reckon it it sort of teaches you that sort of funny discipline.
Well, that's what you told me. They were the things you told me when we went on the twisties for the first time. You said do it like that. And I hadn't really thought about it before. You know what I mean? Driving other cars, I hadn't really thought about it before. And then when you have to remember to do it. When you're not used to doing it, you have to remember to do it. But when you start doing that, you realize that that's what the 911 likes. That's how it goes into a corner. That's how it feels right. And when you start doing it, you realize, hey, this is good. It's not good if you brake too late and then you've actually, you're in a bit of trouble.
Because then you're plowing,
which happens every now and again. But it actually does. It actually does work. So the other thing, I just want to go back.
Maybe that technique is less necessary, like in the newer cars.
This is for manual, right? Manual driving, 2000.
I just sort of mean, like, for example, I reckon you kind of get away with not being so disciplined when you drive possibly like a 992. Again, I've not driven one, but driving a 964 and even a 993 and like anything older than that, that was the way that you're supposed to kind of drive it to get the best out of it.
I think it's right. I mean, driving a 992, and I haven't driven one, so I'm only going by what people have said. I just think it's a little bit like automatic pilot. I think it's like very easy to do, go fast. It's very easy to go fast in a corner. It's very, it's not as engaging, I don't think. I mean, I think they'd be great cars, but I don't think a 992 Carrera S is as engaging as even a 997 Carrera S. You know what I mean?
Yep. Hey, just quickly on the tyre thing, just one other really quick anecdote to add to that. So I was helping a friend. That's the reason why I was kind of pondering tyres. She drives a Merc A250 and, she's the helpless female friend that needed a hand with kind of car stuff. So she buzzed me and asked me about it. But basically a Merc dealer, because this whole kind of N-Spec thing, it's across the board now with like Mercedes and Audis and stuff like that. You can buy tyres that are supposedly specifically designed to kind of particular brands. So I actually kind of called around for her car, which is just a shitty A250. Shouldn't say that, but whatever. And I was talking to the tyre guys about it, and it was a $60 or $70 per tyre premium for the Mercedes-rated, Continental. It wasn't a great tyre. And I sort of said to the guys, so can you tell me what you really think the difference is? And, they were obviously very cynical about it as well. So, look, it might be kind of different with Porsche because I believe that, like, this whole N rating thing has been going for a very long time, whereas I think it's a little bit more recent with Merc and Audi and stuff.
But is the speed rating, is it the speed rating for Porsches that N-Spec have the proper speed rating, or they're all the same?
No, they're all the same. It's the load and the speed. I think if you kind of believe some of it, I think it's partly the load and the compound, because like there's different sort of compounds for the sidewall and the main tread and all that sort of stuff. But so I don't disbelieve that the car, that the tyres were actually kind of designed with the cars in mind, but like exactly how far different is the tyre, like an N-rated tyre versus a non-N-rated? I don't know. Like, I believe that there's probably a difference, but for me personally, like with me putting a set of tyres on my Weiss Gold wheels, the thing I think about the most is would I really notice it? And now that my car's out of warranty and all of that sort of stuff, like who's going to give a fuck?
You should do it. You should do it and stick your GoPro in and do a video about it. That'd be a good video. Yeah. People would be interested in knowing the difference, especially going from cups to 4Ss. I think people would like that interest. I mean,
my cups are pretty old though now.
But the 4Ss, Steve, even on, for my car, like I think it's about 50-50. I remember, even now I think if you read, some people still get PS2s, they want the N-Spec like me, and then other people get the 4S. I mean, it's almost like they're the two tires for the 997.1, 0.2 that people are buying. People don't seem to sway too far out from those. And like you said, everyone says the 4S is an amazing, amazing tire. Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to change it.
Don't get me wrong. Like, so pretend I go shopping tomorrow for 4Ss and there's an N-rated version available. If it doesn't cost that much more, like, I'll do it. But, like if it cost me significantly more, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't kind of be too bothered by the fact. I wouldn't shy away from it because it's not N-rated.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know whether we've spoken about this before, is when I bought my 997, it had the Tech Art 20-inch wheels. The tyres that were on that were still in reasonable. They've still got tread on them now. They're still sitting in my garage. I'm trying to sell them, but I can't sell the wheel and the tyre. But they got Continentals, I think. I think they're Continental tires on them. Because of the size of that rim, I think it's limited to what tires you can buy. But those tires were 10 years old when I bought the car. They were 10 years old. So as you know, you're not supposed to.
Good, obviously.
You're not supposed to keep tires over apparently 6 years old. You're supposed to like change them every 6 years. I mean, Porsche says under no circumstances tires older than 6 years should be used because they start to get brittle, they start to crack. You know, so it kind of worries me when I bought my tires in 2017. I reckon they've got like, I don't know, what have they got? 8,000 kilometers on them, and they're already 3 years old. So I really need to do some really long drives in that car to get to get the use out of those tires
the most out of it.
before I have to switch over. It's like I want to do. I was telling someone the other day, I really want to do when we get back to Sydney. When I get back to Sydney, I want to do some like overnight drives, some really long drives, and get the kilometers up on the car.
You wear your rears a lot quicker though. Like we've talked about it before, but you might get through them in like 12,000 k if you're kind of quite heavy-footed. So we've only got to go out and do that like Autohouse private track day at that Lidenham Raceway or whatever it's called, and you know you're probably halfway them. But I think like mad fun though.
It does look like fun. It did look like fun. I saw that video in the GT4 on Instagram with Grant and the other guy. I don't know who the other guy was.
That's David, who does all their kind of social media stuff now.
Oh, okay.
Dave. Yeah.
But you know what? Tires are confusing, aren't they? When you first buy, I think when you buy a Porsche, they're confusing because you don't really know what to do. You hear about this N thing. People say yes, people say no. You know, then you got the which tire do you get? You know, and then the offset, and then the size of the tire on the rear. You know, I think a lot of people put. I can't remember the number. Is it 320 on the back of mine? And then I asked Gary
I wouldn't go that wide.
Then or whatever it was, 305. Yep. And I think it's supposed to be 295. That's right. It's 305 and it's supposed to be 295. But when I asked Chris at XL Wheels, Chris said, no, I would stick with the 295. He said, you do 305, the bulge is a bit too much. He said the profile of the 295 actually looks a lot better. I mean, that's the size it's supposed to be on that 19-inch rim, and to him that was and that was enough for me. He's an expert, you know what I mean? So I just took it at that, and I got 295s. But a lot of people on forums say 305.
When you start reading the forums and you start to really get into the nitty-gritty, I think you start to kind of read that, you know, there's a difference between a 305 on a Pirelli versus a 305 on a Michelin, and, you know, like, they're actually not identical as well anyway, so there's quite a bit of nuance and all that type of stuff. But again, I'd argue for me in the way I drive my GT3, it wouldn't make one iota of difference.
Yeah. You want to talk about that Rusty French article you came across? That's the guy that we spoke about in a previous podcast. It's got that he sold all the cars to a dealer in Melbourne, is it? You know more about the story.
Lorbeck. So it was more, I don't know, I just came across this Porsche Australia kind of little media story thing. I think it probably was the Australian Grand Prix, which actually didn't go ahead because it got cancelled because of COVID. But it just had a little article because Rusty French, who is that quite famous, well, not super famous, but he's a known sort of Porsche racer, had a 935, like the one that Zwart drove up Pikes Peak. So it was on display, and I didn't realise that he said that he was one of two Aussies that kind of managed to land an order, and he had to still kind of do the application and had to prove his kind of his loyalty to Porsche.
But he's been a big Porsche collector for a long time, hasn't he? A long time.
Yeah, massive. And raced them and stuff like that. So he still had to kind of jump through those hoops. And it was because I think we did talk about it on podcast recently, but in Melbourne there's a dealership called Lorbeck, I believe. And they've got 3, and I think even now 4. So they've got a 996.2, a 997.1 GT3 RS.
Yep.
And
997.2.
What am I missing?
GT3, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's right. 997.2 GT3. And now I just looked at it this evening, and now there's a 991.2 GT3 RS. They're all in black. they're all super low Ks. Like the 996 has only got 125k on it, as in 125. The other ones are sort of between 2 and 3,000k. They're all listed at 389,990 Aussie dollars, and they haven't sold.
Yeah, and to give people a
they've been
perspective,
sitting
I
there.
mean, the GT3s, and they're about 100,000 odd more than higher priced versions, correct? Around about 100 odd.
Yeah.
The interesting thing
so-
about that, though, Steve, is the fact that they haven't sold, that they're such pristine examples. They're so low mileage. But it just shows you the price is still the point. People don't really want to spend that much. They don't.
Well, it's a collector's car. I think if you're buying that, then you're kind of adding it to your collection. I don't know how many. There's probably a lot more collectors out there than we actually kind of realize. But say, for example, if it's you, because, like you've obviously kind of constantly got your eye out for a 997 GT3, maybe not an RS, so I don't know, maybe you do, but would you pay that premium of like an extra 100,000k for such a low mileage car? Because as soon as you kind of put it on the road, and
It's
you rack up some
400
miles
though,
on it.
right? Sorry, is it 400k for a 997.2 GT3 he's got, right?
Hang on.
Is that what it is? I don't have it in front of me, sorry.
I've got it. 389,990 for the 0.1 GT3 RS, and it's got
997.
6,519. Yes.
389. So to put that into perspective for people, that year model with higher kilometers that's been driven and used, which could possibly be a better alternative, is somewhere around 200 to 240, around about Australian dollars. So it's almost double.
Is it not
You
more
could
than
almost say that people think Steve always thinks the market value of a GT3 is around 200. It's interesting because when I was talking to Justin on the PorscheCooled Stories that's coming through next week, he would like to get a GT3 and he said ideally next under 200. You know what I mean? So I think that's the spot where most people think. So this car is literally double that price.
This is an RS though, not a.
Oh, that's
This
the
is an
RS,
RS,
is
not
it?
a-
Okay. I thought it was just
the
a
black
GT3.
one with orange.
Okay, sorry.
Black with orange details. But look, they're super expensive. They are super valuable kind of thing, but you're not going to, I don't think you're going to be an everyday person. You're going to go and buy one and then start kind of putting, as soon as you put like another 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers a year on it, like you're kind of tipping your money in a trash can.
Yep. You're going to lose
And
too
you're
much
getting the same
money.
experience.
You're going to lose too much
Yeah,
money,
you're
aren't
getting
you?
the same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're just going to lock them away and not drive them and do like what he's done, and just lock them away as a collector. I'm guessing Rusty French has a lot of cars. I'm guessing he's a big collector and he has other marks of cars and other cars he's collected. I think he has old Australian Fords as well that are worth a lot of money. I think I read somewhere.
Raced Fords.
Yeah, the XR Fords, which people who don't come from Australia, they're like a Ford sedan, which was sort of like supercharged, and they were everywhere, years ago, and they sell for like 600,000-700,000 Australian dollars now. You know what I mean? Like they're crazy money. Yeah, they're crazy money.
Possibly be synonymous to Bathurst, like the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah,
People might
GTR
sort of be a bit more-
XU1s. They used to be Tirana GTR XU1s and the Ford version. I'm wondering though, like he doesn't really. You'd think someone with that sort of racing heritage and love of cars that he would actually drive his cars more though. I find that a little bit odd that they're so undriven. You know what I mean? But the
I
93
suspect he's got a shitload of cars.
probably, yeah. Haven't got enough time in the day. But the 935, Steve, did you listen to the podcast, Matt Farah, where he's talking to the guy that did Pikes Peak, some tuner guy?
Batim,
Yeah,
BBI.
Yeah, Batim, that guy.
Yeah.
And did you hear them talking about Jeff Zwart was driving Ingram's collection, 935, and how they just don't understand, and how they didn't understand how he wasn't scared to death because the car is like irreplaceable. There's so few in the US. It's worth how much?
Yeah.
I was trying to think about how much the guy in Australia, Rusty French, bought his 935 for if they're that much in the US. Like how much would that have
it's
cost?
the same car. And his is in, when you look at that thing, I think it was in bare carbon as well. Like all of his cars are black because I think, I didn't realize it, but Rusty French's sort of racing livery was that old sort of John Player black and gold.
Oh,
gold
right.
decals
So he
on
sticks
a
with black.
kind of bodywork. So that's why all his cars are black.
But this is the thing: the 935 you can't drive on the road. It's a track-only car. There is a guy on YouTube. I can't remember his name. If you do a search for 935, it comes up where he shows his delivery of his 935. Have you seen that one? He's a collector, a Lebanese guy, Arab guy in the US, and he's got a huge collection of cars. And he bought a 935, and he shows you what it all came with and how it looks like inside, and how basically inside it's like a GT2. You know, it looks like it almost looks like a normal production car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which it isn't, because it's basically a body kit on a GT2, right? If you look at the back, you can see the lights and everything. It's sort of like a body kit. But that's the thing. You buy those cars and they're a track car, and you're spending, $1.5 million US or 3 million Australian. Wouldn't you be scared to death to take that on the track?
Territory.
Like, honestly, do it to track that car, don't you just want like an old GT3 that it doesn't matter if you smash it, you just repair it? I don't know. It's a bit.
I think if you've got that much money, because then you listen to like stories about Seinfeld and his 917. Like you just basically kind of, I'll just pop down to the track and get my 917 out. Like
the 917 was a great story on Spike, though. How he didn't, how Seinfeld had to be talked into buying it. You know what I mean? How you need a race car. You need a race car. You know what I mean?
But getting out on the getting out on a track, like in a multi-million dollar sort of thing, I guess you just got to have either the money not to care, or probably a little bit more like Zwart, who's a sort of experienced kind of race kind of driver. Like he would have driven expensive stuff before, so you just kind of go. They said the same thing. Chris Harris, apparently is able to kind of put it out of his head what the value of the car is worth, and is still able to kind of just sort of thrash it on the track.
I mean, Jeff Swart, the Jeff Swart, though, because he's done Pikes Peak for so long, from God knows what year, he's so familiar with it, I guess. You know what I mean? But that was, he wasn't paid. He wasn't paid to do that, right? He was just given that car and, here, take it up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the trust that you have in giving someone your car that's worth that much money, you really have to trust the driver. And he is a good driver. He is a very good driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Seinfeld basically, didn't know he wanted a race car. Spike talked him into it. But, it's interesting to having the owner story, Stephen, that so many, and we're going to talk about this on the next episode in depth. But, so many people, it seems it's a common thread where people do want a classic, whether it's a front engine 928, 944, or it's an a 964, a 912, or a 70s 911, right? It seems like the four owner stories I've done, everyone wants a classic. And then the GT3 keeps coming up, you know what I mean? That the GT3, and especially the 997 or 996, but the 997 more so, comes up as being a car that people would say, well, if I could get another car, I might get a 997 GT3. And you were saying that your mate was originally looking for some other 911 now. He's been searching for a 911. Now he's starting to think about the 997 GT3.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't spoken to him in quite a while. We used to kind of do some freelance together. I'm an art director and he's a copywriter. And back in the day, I'd had a 964, then I had my 993, then he was in a 964 for a while as well. I believe he got rid of it because I think, as you do, I think he got married, had his first kid and all that sort of stuff. But a couple of weeks ago he reached out and sort of said, hey, what do you know about, I think it was specifically it was 996s. I think he was talking about 996 C4S.
Right.
And then he kind of just was tinkering around the edges on turbo and stuff like that. And I just sort of said to him, like, to be honest, never been in one, don't know many people that actually have that model of car. So, and I kind of know because he'd sort of, driven a 964 back in the day that he knew exactly kind of what he's doing in terms of, to go get a pre-purchase inspection from specific people and all of that sort of stuff. So, that was a couple of weeks ago. And then he reached out again this weekend. Weekend just gone. And sort of said, what do you know about 997 GT3s? And it's like that's obviously what I've got. It's like, oh yeah, I can kind of help you a little bit more with that. So just sort of said, oh, what happened? Like, like you were sort of looking at 996s, and he said, yeah, he sort of also looked into 993 turbos and stuff like that, but he kind of realised that the asking price versus the condition for that was quite dear. So he's now turned his attention to 997 GT3s, which seem to be a little bit of a flavour. I know you're sort of...
That's a big jump in price, though. From a 996 Carrera 4S at, say, 90 for a good one. And a turbo, a good one is about 160, 996 turbo, which is crazy price. I guess it's closer to the 996 turbo price. I guess if you're looking at a 996 turbo, you're thinking, oh, I should just go to a 997 GT3 because it is better value. It's definitely better value.
Yeah, but also if he's talked about, like if he said, I think he mentioned that he was looking at 993 turbo.
Okay.
That'd be up over 200. So I'm assuming that he's just sort of like going through the motions.
3 or 350, isn't it? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he's familiar with kind of like he's had the whole air-cooled experience. So yeah, he kind of said, he just asked a few questions about 997 GT3s, like my car in terms of club sport versus non-club sport. The classic thing of like, what are the ownership and servicing costs like? And I sort of said, well, I actually think it's, between like your experience and mine in terms of servicing, I actually think they're sort of relatively similar, blah, blah, blah. So he pointed me to a couple of ads on car sales.
Right.
And we're going to just go and...
Which ones?
There's a black one at that Porsche den, the one with the sort of horrible red stripe on the red wheels. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's the white one with the red wheels and the red decals that are a little bit RS-like.
Yeah, that one scares me.
In Sydney.
You think
that's the one we're going to go and have a look at.
Oh, are you? So you're going to have a look. So that's interesting. So next episode you can tell us how it went and what you thought of the condition of these cars. Because that one with the red wheels is only priced at how much? 179.
No, it's higher. It's over 200.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was lower too, but it's not. It's 200.
Has he changed the price? I swear it was under 200.
I'm not sure. I can't remember. So I don't want to sort of say anything disparaging about that particular car.
Is that Club Sport?
Given that, yeah, it is.
You'd have to get rid of those wheels though; they're hideous.
It's just a different color. You just respray them.
Yeah, you'd have to change them.
It's got the sort of checkered, sort of like RS style decals down the side as well, like matching red and.
I'd remove those as well.
Red mirrors, yeah. It's not to my taste.
It's got low kilometers though, hasn't it? It turns me off, the decals and the red mirrors and the red wheels. It turns me off, but I think it's got reasonably low kilometers, that car.
It's 40. I think it's low 40s. I think it was.
Yeah, it just looks like it's been raced. I don't know why you put that sort of detail on it, and to me, it looks like it's been around a track too many times. That's what I think every time I see it, so I kind of just brush over it.
Well, I'll be able to. Like, I know enough about it to kind of go and have a look at it and spot it, and I don't really know. My mate's obviously just like at the beginning of his journey. Like he's pretty cluey, so he knows what he's doing. He actually doesn't need me. It was just an excuse to kind of catch up. And,
where's that car at?
What's it called?
Close by.
Yeah, it's in Mascot. I can't remember the name of the dealership.
Oh, that'd be good. I'd be interested to know what that one looks like actually, because it's been up for sale for a while. So you should be able to get hopefully a bit of a reduction on that if it's any good.
Yeah, look, part of it too is that if my mate's never been in a 997 GT3 before, this is going to sound slightly weird, but I would sort of go, your first experience, if you're kind of really kind of looking at it, shouldn't be in my car because it's not close enough to kind of standard.
It's not stock, yeah.
Yeah, like because the exhaust is now, so loud and the shifter and there's bits of interior that are sort of different. Like it's not representative of like if you really got 200 kind of grand to spend, you're better off kind of going and looking at a standard car first.
Yeah.
Before you kind of hop into my car.
Yeah, good point. Drive that and then drive yours and see the difference when you tweak it, when you want to make it your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good. Exactly. Well, that'll be a good update for next week's episode. So you're going to do that over the weekend, are you?
Yeah, just go and have a bit of a look. Interesting for me because you really don't see that many 997 GT3s out there. Like you see them like at Auto House kind of cars and coffees and whenever I kind of go service either car and you sort of see one in the workshop, I always go and have a sticky beak, go and have a look at what the condition is like. But
Justin, who's on the next PorscheCooled Owner Stories from Sydney, he said that Autohouse had one or two and they sold them quite quickly recently.
Yeah, the black one.
Yeah,
the black one we talked about.
Yeah,
on
it
last.
sold like very, very quickly. What was it priced at? That it was quite low, I think he said.
It was reasonable. Like I think it was more realistic. I think it was under 200.
Yeah, I missed that one. You'll find
because it only lasted like a day or two.
Right, I didn't even see it. Yeah, he was telling me about it. He'd looked at it and he's told me about it. One thing you'll find interesting though, Steve, is that Justin on the next PorscheCooled Owner Stories next Tuesday.
Yep.
He actually reached out to me on YouTube. I completely forgot it, and he reached out to me about the Fister exhaust and the cost of getting it sent and how much it cost me, and the core exchange and if I did or didn't do it.
Yep.
Based on that response that I gave him, he didn't actually go with the Fister. He found it because he thought he was getting close to like 1,700 Australian dollars. I forgot. I paid about 1,400 for mine. I didn't realize, plus fitting, and it was about 1,700. So he went with the car graphic exhaust. I'll send you the episode.
Exhaust.
Car graphic exhaust for the 996 Carrera, which is lighter weight, supposed to give you more power. And he also did the plenum as well. IPD plenum as well, since he's picked it up. So it's quite an interesting story. It's more than meets the eye in Justin's Porsche story. But I was interested with about the car
cabrio, right?
Huh?
It's a cabrio, right?
It's a cabriolet, yeah. But I said to him when I'm back in Sydney, I'd definitely like to meet up and hear it, see what it sounds. And I said you might be interested as well, but just to hear the car graphic exhaust on a 996, he says it sounds amazing. He said he loves it. He says it's really, really good, and it only cost him 2,000.
Particularly with the roof down.
Yeah, and it only cost him 2,000 odd fitted.
Where did he source it from? Do you know?
I don't know. It's car graphic. I guess he bought it straight from them, maybe.
Yeah, I reached out to them when I was looking for my car, like how I was specifically looking for the bypass, but with one path that was silenced. I came across a car graphic option for it. They're not too expensive. I contacted them directly, so they could have supplied it. But strangely, the exhaust that I was talking about was the wrong way around in terms of the switching. Valve,
But I think the way he weighed it up was good. He got the price of the Fister. It was about 1,700. He had to get it fitted. This was a proper exhaust, not just a mod. It's lighter. It apparently gives you more power. I don't know how much, not very much. So he went with that option. So I think, it's interesting, like you got to weigh up these options, but Fister's not perfect for everyone. It was fine for me, but it'd be interesting. I really want to hear this car graphic though. I really want to hear what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you. There's a used exhaust on eBay, I think for your car.
Right.
Probably would have fit his.
Right.
It's been sort of floating around on there for a while. They kind of come up a lot, and often for GT3s as well. So it's definitely one of the good options. Yeah,
but I think you'll enjoy that episode because he also fixed up his interior as well, which was a bit worn and whatever, at a place in Artarmon that does a lot of Porsches and stuff. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But he also did some work there, which, just to make the interior just that bit nicer. And he had his roof fixed up as well. There's something wrong with the roof. But it's a good story. You should listen to it. I'll send it to you when I've finished editing, getting rid of all the gaps. All right, mate. I think we've hit our time. I think we've been talking for at least an hour. My little counter here is telling me an hour and 10, but we did stop for a bit, so I reckon we're at an hour.
Cool.
Thanks, Steve.
No worries.
Anything?
Have a good week again.
Yep, you too. Anything you want to say to the listeners before we go? Follow you on social media?
If that's what you're leading with, then I will reply with nothing to see here.
All right.
Absolutely fuck all to see here.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. We'll talk again next week. Like I said, don't forget PorscheCooled Owner Stories, which went up yesterday with Ajmal and his 912 and 996. It's a really good one. And coming next Tuesday, Justin. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, mate.
Bye for now.